President Trump out on the campaign trail again tonight for another typically off-the-rails rally, but this is really something. Listen.
In Helsinki, I had a great meeting with Putin. We discussed everything. I had a great meeting. We got along really well. By the way, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's a really good thing. Now, we're being hindered by the Russian hoax. It's a hoax, okay? I'll tell you what, Russia's very unhappy that Trump won, that I can tell you.
So if Russia's actually unhappy that Trump won, then somebody forgot to tell Vladimir Putin.
President Putin, did you want President Trump to win the election, and did you direct any of your officials to help him do that?
Да, я хотел, чтобы он выиграл.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because he talked about bringing the U.S.-Russia relationship back to normal.
So there you have it from Putin himself. It's not fake news. You can't say it out of his own mouth, his own words. He wanted Trump to win the election. And that may shed some light on the big question tonight. And that question is, why won't President Trump clearly and unambiguously call out Vladimir Putin for election interference? Why won't he do it? Well, that's what a strong leader would do, right? Instead, this White House put on a display today in the briefing room, a display intended to send a message to the American people. That message is to convince you that this administration actually takes Russia's attacks on our democracy seriously. So they trotted out one top official after another, every one of them pointing the finger at Russia, which is all well and good. But obviously, there's one person missing. You want to guess who that is? President Donald J. Trump, who, no matter what the members of his own administration say, just can't seem to bring himself to blame Russia for anything without walking it back in the same breath. So let's compare. This is the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, what he said today to what President Trump said after that disastrous Helsinki summit. Here it is.
The intelligence community continues to be concerned about the threats of upcoming U.S. elections, both the midterms and the presidential elections of 2020. In regards to Russian involvement in the midterm elections, we continue to see a pervasive messaging campaign by Russia to try to weaken and divide the United States.
I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place. Could be other people also. There's a lot of people out there. There was no collusion.
No collusion. Could be a 400-pound man in someone's basement. You heard that one. And then there's the Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, bluntly warning that our democracy itself is being targeted.
Our democracy itself is in the crosshairs. Free and fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, and it has become clear that they are the target of our adversaries who seek, as the DNI just said, to sow discord and undermine our way of life.
Do you hold Russia at all accountable for anything in particular? And if so, what would you consider them that they are responsible for?
Yes, I do. I hold both countries responsible. I think that the United States has been foolish. I think we've all been foolish.
And what about this? This is from the FBI Director, Christopher Wray.
As I have said consistently, Russia attempted to interfere with the last election and continues to engage in malign influence operations to this day. This is a threat we need to take extremely seriously and to tackle and respond to with fierce determination and focus.
I don't think anybody knows it was Russia that broke into the DNC. She's saying Russia, 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 but maybe it was. I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay?
So there's a 400-pound thing. So then, as a candidate, and now, more than a year and a half into his presidency, Donald Trump has let Russia off the hook again and again and again, calling into question the assessments of his own intelligence chiefs that Russia interfered in the 2016 election and will do the same thing again. Even in today's, let's call it what it really is, kabuki theater in the briefing room. The National Security Advisor, John Bolton, could only point to what Vladimir Putin said about election interference, not what President Trump said.
And in fact, President Putin said, I thought at the press conference, but certainly in the expanded bilateral meeting when the two leaders got together with their senior advisors, President Putin said the first issue that President Trump raised was election meddling.
So take off your tribal hats and your conservative or liberal hats, or like Donald Trump or don't, whatever. What does it tell you when the President of the United States sends out members of his own administration to make the case that he should be making himself? Think about that. That Russia attacked our democracy. Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election. Russia is constantly working to divide America. The facts are there. The intelligence agencies are saying it. They all are saying it. And they're doing a pretty good job of it, Russia is. So why doesn't this president, why won't this president, in the words of his own FBI director, take the threat seriously? It's no coincidence that all of this is happening as the Mueller investigation is moving into the Oval Office, as Mueller is pressing for a sit-down interview with the president himself, as former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort is on trial, the first trial to come out of the Mueller investigation, and as the president brands the whole thing a witch hunt. The fact is, this is no witch hunt. Robert Mueller is doing what the president should be doing. He's working to get the facts, the truth about what Russia did in 2016 and about what Russia is still doing right now. That's the only way we can defend our democracy. Time to bring you now CNN politics editor-at-large, Mr. Chris Cillizza, and CNN law enforcement analyst Josh Campbell. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on this lovely evening. Chris, you first. Why isn't the president as forceful or direct as his national security team when it comes to Russia's efforts to attack our elections and undermine our democracy?
He doesn't believe it, despite all evidence to the contrary. Look, I think at this point, when Donald Trump says it, let's take him at his word. Over and over and over again, he has not been able to say, Russia sought to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. My intelligence community tells me they did so because they wanted to help me and hurt Hillary Clinton. That election's over with, but the threat isn't. We need to figure out as a country how to protect our democracy. All those clips you played, Don, could have been a lot of other people. Could have been China. Could have been a 400-pound guy sitting in his parents' bedroom. He can't simply say it because he doesn't believe it. If you need evidence, the show of force, 4 big major figures in the Trump administration coming out and saying Russia interfered in the election, we need to stop them, this is a threat to our democracy. Hours later, that clip you played, Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, this is all a hoax. If the boss doesn't believe it, there's no way that the administration is as focused on it as they could be.
Right, because there's no urgency behind it. The big guys not saying, you guys take care of this, make sure, right? So, Josh, what do I have for you? This is what you tweeted today. You said, key takeaway, if Trump privately told Putin to stop interfering in the U.S. elections and the intel community continues to see Russia efforts to interfere in U.S. elections, as the DNI said today, then Putin is either disrespecting Trump or didn't get the message. So most likely President Trump doesn't see it that way.
Well, he may not see it that way, but I think he should be focused on the fact that he does not look good here. This is very simple if you think about it. I mean, we heard today from our U.S. intelligence community officials that Russia is continuing to interfere in U.S. elections. So that either means one of two things. Either the president actually sat down with Vladimir Putin and scolded him and said, cut it out, and Putin ignored him, or the message never was delivered. So that either way should be concerning for American citizens because it either means that we're being lied to and that message wasn't conveyed forcefully, or it means the power of the presidency wasn't what it once was, and that even after being scolded by the President of the United States, someone like Vladimir Putin thinks that he can continue interfering in our elections without consequences.
Chris, I want to play more from President Trump speaking about the Helsinki rally tonight. Watch this, at a rally tonight.
I got along great with Putin. And everybody said, wow, that was great. A couple of hours later, I started hearing these reports that, you know, they wanted me to walk up. Here's a podium here. They wanted me to walk up and go like this. They wanted me to go up and have a boxing match. I said, whatever happened to diplomacy?
So, well, there's a lot of things there. I mean, there's a wide gap between diplomacy and actually a boxing match.
Yep.
No one was really asking him or thought that he would have a boxing match. They just thought that he would stand up and be a man as the president of the United States and call Russia and Vladimir Putin on exactly what they're doing instead of capitulating. I mean, and he skips the part where Putin undermined his own, where Trump, I should say, undermined his own intelligence agencies on a world stage and had to clean up his own mess.
But, and by the way, and I'll get to your other point, Don, but in cleaning up his own mess, that's when he said could have been other people also. Like, he can't, even in the cleaning up of the mess, he still hedged.
I meant to say would or wouldn't. Remember that. Go on.
Right.
But sorry. Yeah.
So go back to what he's doing there. Look, what you see there is vintage Trump, which is he is telling himself and everyone around him a story of how he sees things. Whether or not that comports with facts, it doesn't in this case, is immaterial. No one outside of maybe his family and some of his advisors, no one Donald Trump, who is not on the payroll, thought whether it was 1 minute after that summit or 10 hours after that summit that it went well. Yeah. The reaction in the Trump White House, the reaction on Capitol Hill among Republicans was, I can't believe I just saw what I saw. So he creates a reality, he tells himself it, and then he uses that to scapegoat the media in some way. The media is covering, the media doesn't make Republicans say, I can't believe that just happened. We quote them saying that.
Right.
But that's again, vintage Trump.
I want to get this in, and if you can get a quick response to me, Josh, because I'm up against the clock. I just want you to take a look at this. It's a surprising moment from the White House press briefing with the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats. Watch.
I'm not in a position to either understand fully or talk about what happened at Helsinki. I'll turn it over to the National Security Director here to address that question.
So 2.5 weeks after Helsinki, top intelligence person in this country can't speak to what happened there?
So two key aspects there. First, he says that he doesn't know what happened and he can't talk about it. The second, I can appreciate someone in this position. You know, he has access to highly classified information. If he had a private conversation with the president, maybe he couldn't talk about that. But the fact that he actually indicated he doesn't even know what happened is highly concerning. And I know him to be a very good person. Talk to people who are in his orbit. He's a good man. But the fact that he wasn't briefed by the president of the United States on what took place in that meeting is going to do a disservice to the intelligence community. What should have happened after that meeting is the president of the United States should have been sitting down in Langley at CIA headquarters with the head of the DNI, the head of CIA, all of the intelligence analysts that are working on Russia, and should have given them a full debriefing on what took place in that meeting to inform their analysis, to inform what it is that they're doing. We know that didn't take place because the head spy, the top DNI, doesn't even know what happened.
Well, and by the way, Don,
and the DNI, the person who's in charge of all intelligence, maybe should have been in the room to have some idea.
Don, I was just going to, very quickly, I know you're up against it, but
I am.
Just remember, Donald Trump is the one who pushed for, a one-on-one meeting with Vladimir Putin with just translators that went on for 2+ hours. That the only version of what happened there that we know is from interviews that Vladimir Putin has given with Russian state television. Just sit with that one for a little while.
Thank you, gentlemen.